The nationalist populist hero Viktor Orban wins a stunning landslide victory in Hungary, all as pro-Russian forces dominate European elections. In this video, we're going to look at the astonishing win of Viktor Orban and his crushing defeat of left-wing liberals. We're going to see how pro-Russian forces in Serbia prevailed as well. And stick with me at the very end of this video when I'll reveal why it looks like the rise of nationalist populist Europe is just getting started. You are not going to want to miss this. Greetings, everyone. Dr. Steve here with you. Great to be with you. As always, I am your daily fake news antidote. So come on in to your Patriot Professor's Den, where I help you to think better so you can feel better in these crazy and turbulent times. So if you haven't already done so, you know what to do. Make sure to smack that bell and subscribe button. Before we begin, I want you to learn about an amazing organization called Patriot Switch. You know, we often talk about on this channel building parallel structures in businesses and institutions to emancipate ourselves from all the woke corporations out there like Disney, for example. Well, Patriot Switch has helped over 2 million patriots all across the country make sure that all their purchases go to support patriotic companies. Isn't that awesome? And the coolest thing here is that you don't have to change anything outside your ordinary routine or the items you already purchased. Patriot Switch will show you exactly how you can start voting with your dollars to support companies that promote our values of faith, family, and freedom. So make sure to learn more by visiting Patriot Switch in the description below. All right, gang, let's dive right in here. Obviously, we're witnessing history in the making all over the place over these last several weeks, and this weekend was no exception. Conservative Patriot Prime Minister Viktor Orban was up for re-election on Sunday, and he absolutely crushed it. This is, if you could believe it, this is Orban's 4th election win in a row, 5th overall. But even more so, it is his 4th consecutive landslide win, and it was an absolutely devastating blow to the bullies in Brussels. Now, if you don't know, the EU hates Orban, and so they helped put together, get this, a 6-party opposition alliance against him to topple him once and for all in Hungary. I mean, you heard that right. Viktor Orban's Fidesz party, which is the nationalist populist patriot party of Hungary, they had to face a mass coalition of 6 liberal parties backed by Brussels. But it was not to be. As of the making of this video, that so-called United for Hungary coalition got a humiliating 34% of the vote. Orban absolutely crushed them. And as such, the nation of Hungary has declared loud and clear for all the world to hear that they have fully embraced nationalism, populism, and traditionalism. They want nothing to do with left-wing, woke liberalism, period. Nada. Orban said it beautifully. He said, quote, "We won a victory so big that you could see it from the moon, and you can certainly see it from Brussels." I love it. That's right. The bullies in Brussels got a huge defeat yesterday. Some conservative patriots are reacting to the stunning landslide victory, licking their chops for the upcoming midterms here in the States. Jeremy Carl of the Claremont Institute tweeted out, quote, "Orban won a stunning victory and probably 2/3 parliamentary majority based on a campaign that was conservative, nationalist, anti-immigration, pro-traditional family, and firmly against military intervention in Ukraine." A lesson there for the GOP if we're willing to learn it. And he's absolutely right. There was a pro-traditional family referendum that was voted on as well, where voters were asked if they approved banning LGBT explicit material in the curriculum of school-age children. 67% of the voting public turned out to answer that referendum, and 92 to 96% of them voted a resounding no. They do not want anything resembling LGBT curriculum in their schools, period. That's about as unanimous as you can get. 92 to 96% opposition to pro-LGBT curriculum. Moreover, too, a new nationalist party, a political party, won big in Hungary. It's a brand new party named Mi Hazánk, which means my homeland. They passed the 5% threshold and entered into parliament for the first time. This despite the fact that the big tech oligarchs at Facebook banned their page just before the election. And so we saw a massive landslide win for Fidesz, as well as an extraordinary victory for a brand new nationalist populist party in Hungary as well. And on top of all that, when all is said and done, it wasn't just the cultural conservatism that won. It was the absolute commitment to stay neutral with regard to the war in Ukraine. And that part is key. And that's because the propaganda machine in the United States and in Europe, which is desperately trying to ignite World War III because they know that Biden and the Democrats are going to get crushed in the midterms. They think World War III is the only thing that can save them. They've been doing everything they possibly can to try to tar and feather Orban as a pro-Putin stooge because he absolutely steadfastly refuses to even entertain the notion of Hungary participating in a NATO-led operation against the Russian Federation. Hungary has refused to supply Ukraine with military aid and has not allowed weapons to be shipped to Ukraine across Hungary's borders. And the level of insanity and hysteria that the pro-war media has reached has been roasting Orban nonstop now for the last 5 weeks leading up to this election. And the Liberal coalition, the coalition of those 6 leftist parties, they were all totally pro-war. They were all pro-propaganda, pro-EU, pro-NATO, pro-intervention. So in many respects, this election was a referendum on Hungary's participation in the war, and the pro-neutrality forces won overwhelmingly. And so I think it's safe to say that as of today, it is very clear that the NATO alliance against Russia is officially fractured, with the Hungarian nation making it absolutely clear they want no part in escalating this horrible conflict into Europe via NATO forces. So that idea that was being floated around very, very seriously just before bumbling Biden visited Brussels a couple of weeks back, the idea of NATO intervention appears now to be officially dead. Now, it's not just Hungary. Pro-Russian forces in Serbia won the ballot box overwhelmingly as well. Serbia's incumbent president, Alexander Vučić, won re-election easily with upwards of 60% of the vote. And Vučić he's very interesting because he's been straddling between being rather pro-EU. He wants to join the EU, and yet being Serbian, he's also very friendly to Russia and the Putin administration. Remember, Serbia has never forgotten NATO for the 78 straight nights of bombing back in 1999, when NATO officially became a hostile force. That was the time NATO transformed from a strictly defensive alliance to now an offensive alliance, right? And so President Vučić has expressed his own and his nation's solidarity with Russia in all this, and they're maintaining a solid neutrality, again, in the midst of a barrage of pro-war propaganda coming from Western media outlets. So what are some of the takeaways from all this? Well, I think first and foremost, while pro-war sentiments are monolithic and unanimous among our media elite, even among neocons and rhinos and the like, the vast majority of voters are absolutely dead set against anything like that. Have a look at what's going on in France. Marine Le Pen of the Patriot Party National Rally is closing in on Macron. They have their elections in just a few weeks. She's within 5 points of taking the presidency in the second round of elections. In fact, the radically anti-war leftist president Jean-Luc Mélenchon is experiencing quite a surge there as well. Macron is finding that he needs to start to sound more and more like Viktor Orban if he's going to win. So it looks like Europeans are rising up and embracing a kind of Europe first populism. Hungary first, Serbia first, France first. And they want nothing to do with any hint of military escalation. But secondly, as again, we're seeing particularly in the upcoming elections in France, voters are beginning to become very weary and downright opposed to the insane barrage of sanctions that their European leaders took against Russia, not because they support Russia per se, most don't, but because they recognize that those sanctions are backfiring big time against European standards of living. Again, this is particularly the case in France. And Marine Le Pen, she's doing a very, very good job pivoting on the state of the economy and bashing Macron over it, since, of course, Macron helped lead the massive sanctions war on Russia that's attempting to cancel the nation responsible for 40% of Europe's food and fuel, and thus sending gas and grocery prices through the roof. Now, things are pretty bad in Hungary as well, but Orban not only distanced himself from military confrontation with Russia, but he's also distanced himself from the sanctions. So it appears that voters are willing to forgive on the sanctions boomerang effect as long as the national leader distances him or herself from any direct confrontation with Russia. But the second major takeaway over the weekend's elections is that the world really is changing. The world really is turning far more nationalist, populist, and traditionalist, whether it's Russia and China and India emerging as the first post-globalist civilization states that are totally upending the globalist economic order, or whether it's voters in Serbia declaring their solidarity with the Russian civilization state, or whether it's voters in Hungary declaring that Viktor Orban's patriotic vision of faith, family, and freedom in the renewal of Hungarian Christian civilization. Regardless, voters are increasingly turning their backs on liberal globalism and returning to nation, culture, custom, and tradition. And if what happened in Europe over the weekend is any indicator, the best is yet to come. Now, before you go, you will definitely want to check out my latest video I just uploaded on how woke Disney is about to absolutely implode, and it's going to be glorious to see. You're not going to want to miss it. So make sure to click on that link, and I'll see you over there. God bless.